Now available. Paperback and Kindle Unlimited. ISIS, the main event. It's carnage inside of a steel cage when the goddess next door steps in the squared circle with a beast from the boss in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the main event, paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
Hey, what's up, Shawn? How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for coming on. And you're like right on time too. I had to play some jams for these my X-Men First Class niggas. So I'm glad you got here on time.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on. I've been sub to your channel before. This is not our first talk, actually. We used to talk about comics and stuff like that, but now I have a new channel, and now we get to talk about the real shit. So you've been doing videos for quite some time. Can you kind of tell me about the origin of your channel?
Well, the origin of my channel came out of my blog, Shawn James Black Freelance Writer. And over there, I used to write about men's issues, and I also used to write about comics, science fiction, and fantasy. And I had believed after 2 million hits on that website, I said I had come as far as I was going to go as related to blogging. So what I decided to do was move over to YouTube in order to expand my audience. So that's why I started doing the videos, because I wanted to sell more books, and I wanted people to get to know me, because in order to sell books, you have to get to know the author. So what I wanted the audience to do was get to know me so that they could get to know my products. Okay. And if they got to know me, they would go out here and buy my books on the regular.
So you've done screenplay before. What format do you prefer? Blog, books, video, screenplay? Like what format do you prefer?
I actually prefer doing the novels most of all. I like doing the things like the ISIS series books, the John Haynes and E-Steam series books over anything else, because it's the easiest to write and the easiest to imagine. And while I like screenplays, my dream is to just do a comic book. That's always been something I've always wanted to do, but I'm just trying to right now raise the money to do that. Right now, I'm getting ready to have Bill Walko do the pencils for a short E-Steam story, No Good Deed, as a start. But I hope to one day get an ISIS graphic novel out or a John Haynes graphic novel out in the future. I'm hoping to do that, either raising funds by Patreon or by Indiegogo.
Okay. So how did the character actually? How did you get the idea of the character?
Which character?
Your main character. What was his name again?
Like John Haynes?
Yeah.
Well, I got that idea for this character because he's partially based on me, but I had this idea for this story about this man who the devil didn't like from my mother. My mother gave me this idea about she said the devil didn't like me, so I wanted to do the ultimate middle finger at the devil by creating this new version of John Haynes that was going to fight him. And I had the story about John Haynes being tempted by the devil. He was going to give him this incredibly attractive assistant, and he was going to try to take his soul. But the whole book was about him overcoming the devil by showing an example of Christ to E-Steam, the woman who was sent to seduce him. And that's where I got the ideas for John Haynes. But I wanted to really present that positive image of Black manhood and Black masculinity, because we weren't getting that in mainstream media. And I wanted to give people an example of what it meant to show you Black male leadership, because I wasn't seeing that regularly in most media in the mid-2000s.
So what year were you doing like your first videos on YouTube? Do you remember what year it was?
I think it was, I started in 2011 or so. I had one video I did, 1 or 2 videos, but then I didn't feel like I was ready yet. But after about 2013, 2014, I started doing videos on the regular, because I had a regular catalog of books coming out, and I wanted to, again, increase my sales. So what I started doing was videos on the regular so people could get to know me and get to know my products. And then over time, I started going from the books and to the videos, and I started doing more videos about different topics. I started out with African-American fantasy and science fiction. Then I started doing videos about Black issues. Then I did videos about the goth subculture. And I still do videos about men's issues. And that's usually the whole foundation of most of my content. Then I started branching out into doing my own ads. So I'm always doing different types of content, but the core of it is men's issues. The core of it is Black science fiction, fantasy, and comics. And it is also stuff about the Black goth subculture, because I really want more people to know about the Black part of the goth scene, and I also want them to know about different parts of Black life and Black culture that aren't seen on the regular.
So when you were first doing content about what men go through, like who were you kind of subscribed to? Like, did anyone motivate you to do certain content back then?
No, not really. I would just see guys like Mad Voodoo Man, also known as the Iceman, making videos, and they would talk about different topics and that I knew something about. And I would watch guys like Advice Show and Mr. Superboy, and I would see them talking about topics, and then I said to myself, well, I know something about this, and maybe I could help some people, because I've already written about a lot of this stuff on my blogs, and I've written about it in my books like Stop Simping, so I could talk about this on my videos. Now, I also saw a guy way back in 2009, 2010 called Dan Freeman, but he's no longer on YouTube anymore. But he was really one of the guys who I learned a lot from about making video content. There was also Rich Scorpio, but they're no longer on here. But they showed me that that a lot of things I was listening to, I knew something about, and I wanted to share that with other people.
Right. So, you know, I would say you're basically thinking Black man. Like, if I look at your channel, that's what I think weird content usually goes to. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you once got promoted by the Manosphere. What are you currently watching the Manosphere now, or no?
I've moved past the Manosphere, because all they do is talk about the same topic all the time, which is Black women. And I believe we need to start working on ourselves. I mean, yes, we have there are issues that Black women have, but as Black men, we have to start working on ourselves. And the Manosphere, all they do is complain about Black women. But the whole thing is, you as a man have to start working on yourself and developing yourself, because if you keep complaining about these bad Black women, all you're going to do is attract those bad Black women to you. So if you really want to get away from those type of so-called toxic women, what you have to do is work on yourself, and you'll start attracting better quality women to you with high values and good character.
So yeah, that's the Windows XP Negroes, or the 2.0 as I call them. It's very heavily focused on pussy and views and women. So some of the new guys, we're trying to do the reset and hopefully put out some content that is more about improving and other important stuff. So it's gonna take a while. So you currently you don't watch anything in the Manosphere? No one in the Manosphere right now?
No, not really. The only guys I watch are Mr. Superboy when he puts a video on, also known as Your World. He makes good content because he's not always focused on this Manosphere stuff. I watch Black Male Advice TV, Ringo. He talks about a lot of men's issues, and he also talks about God and relationships with God. And I also watch, there was another guy I watch a lot of. I watch Akwisi 100 when he comes on, because he always puts down very intelligent, well thought out arguments. But that's about it most of the time now. And also, I don't watch any Manos. I watch Terrence Pop now and again, and Sandman. But most of the time now, I'm watching car videos of anything now.
Oh, okay. So, what was my question? So, would you consider yourself MGTOW, perhaps?
Oh, I've lived that lifestyle before it was even coined as a phrase. And
okay.
I mean, I've been living like that since the late 80s. So I have been what they call, some people say, going your own way, but I've been going God's way since the late 80s. I just decided that when I saw these girls out here with the dope dealers and the thugs, I decided to leave them alone and decided to start working on building myself up, and also starting to build up my relationship with God. So I moved on from there. I said, if these women are the way they are, just leave them and move on. And focus on putting myself first and putting the goals I want to achieve in life first, because it's too much. You don't have that much time on this earth, and you need to just go out here and do what you need to do, because they're going to go out here and be with whoever they want to be. But you're still here, and you need to make the best life for yourself possible.
Correct. We only have one life. It's a very short life, sadly. So there's not a lot of time to waste. If you focus on women, I mean, you're really gonna lose time and get distracted. There's a lot of things that you need to get set up before you even worry about women. So yeah, I agree on that. Evan asked, have you watched David Carroll? by
Yeah, I
chance?
watch David Carroll now and again. We used to watch him on the regular, but I just decided I wanted to move past the whole black complaining about black woman thing and started working on the building of black men, because that's what we need to do as men. Is we know what these bad black women are. We know what they're about, but now that we know what they are, we have to start setting a course for where we want to go, because as the leaders that God has established, we have to start taking the lead in our lives, and we have to start setting a direction for where we want to go. I mean, if we know that these women are toxic, that are some of these women, I'm not going to say all, in our community, we need to start setting a course to walk away from those women and start walking towards those sisters in our community who want to help us build.
Okay, so you mentioned something interesting. You said the women that want to help us build. So this would be the good women, correct?
Well, I'm not going to say that they're good women. I'm just going to say they are women who want to help us build. There's no, because none of us are really good. I mean, we're just looking. I'm just looking for those who are going to help us build. There are sisters out there who want to help us build. I've run into them. I've had them help me on projects. I've had them support my work. So I know that they exist. I know that there are sisters out there who want to help us build. And I know that there are sisters who understand the God-given role given to them as women.
Okay, so you mentioned, I think on one of my videos, that you got you were red pilled long ago. I think it was my Spider-Man video. Could you explain what got you to the red pill?
Well, what got me to the red pill was back in the late 80s when I saw all of these girls going out here with these dope dealers, and I just saw the reality that they were not looking for any sort of relationship with a guy based on values and character. So I learned back in the late 80s that a lot of these girls had been messed up, some of them as far back as 12 years old. So there's not much anybody can do. And if you see somebody is dysfunctional from a starting point, there's no fixing them. Usually most people are set in their ways by the time about 16, 17. So all you can do is just accept what they are, take people as is, and then walk away. That's all you can do. And that's what the red pill is. You see the reality, you accept the reality, then you move on, and then you start building towards what you want to do.
Okay. Have you heard of the black pill?
I've heard of those. That's the incels, and that's the other guy. Those guys are really, they have a very dystopian view, and some of them have a very disturbed view. I wrote about the incel and the man crisis, but the black pill is just that these guys have no hope, and they basically have given up, and they're in a sad, sad place, and their frame of thinking is deeply, deeply troubled.
Okay, so what do you think about the SYSBM or the Passport Bros?
Well, the whole thing was, I don't want to get into it with the Passport Brothers because they're another form of dysfunction.
We can get to that.
But the SYSBM, I cannot agree with that philosophy because that SYSBM comes from a position of weakness, and these guys don't see how weak they truly are. I mean, when you look at SYSBM, they're saying save yourself, but who is going to save you from white supremacy? And moreover, these SYSBM black men, they don't understand how weak they look to the international communities they say they want to leave their communities from. Because these guys sit there and say they want to leave the community, but the argument they're making is, I want to go out here and because this black woman is out of control, I can't deal with her. And in these other societies, those men look at these black men as weak because they say, look, we've got our women under control. We've got our communities under control. We control the resources in our community. When we look at this black man, we see weakness, and we don't see anybody who's going to be an asset to our community. So they look at this black man talking about saving himself. They don't see him as somebody who is an asset to their community. What they see is a refugee. And what these SYSBM black men don't understand is you're coming from the position of a refugee. And when you come from the position of a refugee, you are going to be somebody who is coming in on another man's terms. And those terms are not beneficial to you because you're coming from a position of submission. And when you are submitting, what's happening is you have to take what that man gives you because he is the one controlling those resources in that community. He is the one controlling the rule in that community. He is the authority in that community. And there is no saving you because all of these other countries believe in white supremacy. And what you're doing is going to a place where you're going to be in a second or even a third best position, because you're not going to be in any sort of position where you have any sort of control. And again, they don't see you as strong because your argument is, I'm leaving because I can't deal with this black woman. So they're looking at you and saying, you can't control your woman. How can you lead anything in my community? And how can you be an asset to my community? Because you couldn't control anything in your community. You couldn't deal with your women. And now I've got to deal with you. And you're a weak link. They look at the SYSBM black man as a weak link. They don't respect him. But you can't tell that to the SYSBM black man who's bought into a broken philosophy. And this broken philosophy is something that a lot of these young men, they don't understand. They're coming, again, from a position of weakness. All they're thinking about is, I want to get away from these bad black women, but they're not thinking about how they look as men to the international community, and how those international communities of men, again, they look at this man, they see a guy who's weak, and they also see a guy who they consider a threat to their quality of life, because their quality of life is up to a standard they have, and they don't want this weak link coming in here and tearing down everything they built and breaking up their order, because all he thinks about is getting with these women and doing the same foolish things, because he's not in a place where he can be an asset to that society.
Okay, you went in. I have some questions. People have some questions. So you said that the black man is weak when he goes to SBM because he's leaving. Basically, he can't control his women. But I would, I think some foreigners would look at the black American women and see that there's a lot of fuckery going on in the U.S. and it's almost impossible to even control these women. I think that's even a suicide mission. How can they be called weak? When feminism has a huge factor into a lot of the fuckery that black men go through.
Well, when it comes down to those foreign men, they don't see those black women as any threat to them. When they look at that black woman, they see somebody who gets in line almost automatically when they start snapping their fingers. I mean, when these white and non-black men make demands of this black woman, she submits to their authorities. Only the black man she doesn't submit to, because she has been taught by these feminists not to respect the black man's authority. She has been brainwashed by the mainstream media to believe that a black man's authority is not something she needs to respect or regard. But the foreigners, they can quickly get her in line. For example, when we had an incident outside one of these hair shops where this Chinese man, I think, punched this woman in the face, we saw the next day he had a 50% off sale. And that 50% off sale, those black women quickly got submissive after that Chinese man punched her in the face. And we also saw an incident at one of these Arab gas stations where after those Arab men beat up those black women, they quickly fell in line. And even with some of these white guys, they will try that stuff with these white guys. And these white guys will let them know where the line is for authority. But the big problem with black men is they're afraid to assert authority. And they're afraid that if they assert authority, what this female will do is put their freedom at risk by calling the police on them and talking about domestic violence. But these white and non-black men, they don't fear no police because they see themselves as authority figures. They see themselves as leaders. And the black woman sees them as leaders. So she doesn't challenge their authority because she knows there's going to be a consequence for challenging their authority. And they will punish her if she challenges their authority. So we see that she can submit when she challenges their authority, but she doesn't respect the black man because she knows she has protection by white supremacy.
Okay, so here's a comment from Zero. Can you see the comment?
Don't see it. I'm looking at it on another page.
Okay. It says immigrants.
Yeah, he says immigrants will inherit feminist, communist, socialist societies because they have babies and their culture is the pimp hand of retribution. Yeah, that's what happens when they go, especially when immigrants come to America. These women start becoming feminists. They start becoming very rude and nasty. And a lot of people who get involved with the foreign women, they find out the hard way that they wind up having to deal with that kind of stuff.
So here's Evan's comment. It says, what about the white men who are moving to African and Japan? Are they operating from a standpoint of submission?
Well, white men, again, they are considered the ultimate ideal. And what happens is those women fall in the line once they see a white man step into the room. I mean, these white men, I've heard from guys who are in the military, they say that these white men come in, they get the pick of women in these countries because they see the white man as an ideal. They see the white man as power, and they want to submit to that power because that means they can get access to resources and a better life. So they will submit to that white man, but they don't see the black man as somebody who has power. They only see him as a tool that they can use as a springboard to get to the power of the white man.
So I think we have to remember that there are extremists on every side, right? I mean, there's extremists on SYSBM. Like, some people take it a little bit too far. I mean, but I think on the lower level, it's just about, hey, you can date whoever you want, black, white, purple, alien, and just be happy. That's just on a lower level, I think it's perfectly fine. Like, I have nothing against it, but everyone has an extreme, on the MGTOW, SYSBM, even on the red pill. And it can go to a far extreme that's just kind of dumb. So yeah. On a lower level, I have nothing against it. But I really don't agree that people who don't prefer black men are weak. Like, I don't think that's fair, because in other countries, I mean, the man has a lot more power. I mean, the man, like in Africa, for instance, they can get away with a lot of shit. And some African women will try to escape Africa to come here so they can get some more rights, some more protection from
the
white
black American man. He is one of the weakest men in society. I mean, he is the lowest man on the totem pole, and that's just a fact. I mean, black American men do not have the ability to assert authority the way other men in other countries do. When you go to other countries and you try pulling some of the stuff these American women pull here, they can't get away with that stuff.
Yes, of course. A lot of the shit that happens here won't be able to. They can't pull that shit off in other countries. That's a fact.
I mean, black American men, the whole thing is that they fear losing their freedom. They fear losing everything that they've worked for, because everything a black American man has is very fragile. And all it takes is one call to 911, and a black man can lose practically everything. All a woman has to do is say that he left the toilet seat up, they call 911, and he could lose everything. So a black man walks on eggshells because he knows there's a target on his back. And that's why a lot of black American men, I say that they're in a position of weakness, but it's like something they're forced into because they can't assert authority because of these white supremacists who look for reasons to go after a black man. They'll use a black woman as a weapon to go after him, and they'll also use these non-black women to go after him because they know they have that leverage of practically destroying that man's life at any time just based on a phone call to 911.
Correct. This is why a lot of even my generations are not marrying as much anymore. They're not having kids as much anymore. A lot of people are going that bachelor lifestyle, and divorce rates are really bad. So a lot of people are getting red pilled, especially millennials and Gen Z. So things are very interesting. So you had I think you had a video on Black love. You speak about Black love a couple times on your channel, correct?
Yeah.
So are you pro-black?
I'm not pro-black, but I love myself, and I love black people. And because I love black people, I'm gonna promote black on black love, because I want people to understand that black men and black women do love each other, and there are black men and black women who are having healthy relationships and building healthy families, but we're not seeing that on the regular in the mainstream media. And the reason why we're not seeing that is because they want to promote this divide between the black man and the black woman, because that profits white supremacy. When they see black men and black women fighting each other, they know that they have people that they can make money off of, whether it be in the prison system or by having them buy these consumer products. As long as they're against each other, they are making money. It's like a phrase I've talked about guns and butter that I got from the movie Baby Boy. The whole thing is they're selling both sides the guns to feed each other, and the guns to shoot each other, and the butter to feed themselves as they're fighting the war. So what they're doing is selling both the black man and the black woman guns and butter, and then watching them shoot each other as they're and feeding each other in this war while they all profit at our expense.
So Evan asked a good question. Do you think do we own black women? You said our black women when it came to black love.
Yeah.
Do we own black women?
No, we don't own the black women, but they are a part of us. I mean, we are born from black women, so they are a part of us.
Okay. So currently, so let's say we had a couple of millennials and stuff, and would you promote them to date whoever they wanted, or would you only tell them to mate with black women?
I would try to go out here and present images and media that show them black men and black women being together, because this is something people naturally want to do. I mean, naturally, a black man is going to pursue a black woman. I mean, when you have media out here, white men are always shown going for white women. Asian men are always shown going for Asian women. And it's natural for people to go get somebody who looks like them and wants to produce children that look like them. That's just a natural thing. I mean, people, they want each other, but the whole thing is black people have been brainwashed to believe not to love each other, not to see each other as valuable, and to not see each other as people to get close to. They have been taught this rainbow stuff, but the rest of the world has bought into white supremacy, and they have bought into the ideals of white supremacy. So they're not thinking about going out here and thinking about the rainbow. And black people have to stop thinking about the rainbow and getting whoever you want, but they have to start thinking about about your own people. And that's something we're not thinking about as related to relationships. We're not thinking about getting with a black woman. Well, we think a black woman is evil, but the reason why these black women are out of pocket and out of control is, again, because black men can't assert authority and be the leaders they're supposed to be.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, it's true. Like for most dudes, I mean, a black chick is going to be like their most common. They're most likely going to want a black chick. I mean, I get that. Just like an Asian man's going to most likely want an Asian woman. I get that. So what did you? I saw your video about the Rolling Stone cover, and that's actually what motivated me to do a video on it. What do you think about that Rolling Stone cover?
I think that cover really is a middle finger up at the black man. I mean, when you look at that one image, it is a condemning statement on how little Black Lives Matter thinks of the black man, because here we have on that cover a black woman leading the charge of his protest, and on the cover, on this woman's shirt, it shows I think George Floyd. And the whole thing is, it shows that the black man is not in charge of anything. And if his woman is leading his cause, it's really a bad place for the black man to be, because it shows how weak he is, because he cannot go out here and speak on his own issues. And he's not the one in charge of the protest to demand the terms of change, because in order for you to get change that benefits you, you have to be out here and make your own statements as related to what you want. And you have to be the one who lays the agenda for what you want as related to what you're demanding. And when you have the black man presented in the image of a boy, that's really showing how little they think of a black man. And what's really troubling about that image on Rolling Stone magazine was that this was designed by a black man, and this black man doesn't even know what he was putting into that image regarding himself. He was basically saying, I am not a man you need to respect. I am not a man you need to regard, and that I don't see myself as valuable enough to go out here and fight for my own cause. And he didn't even understand that the message of Black Lives Matter isn't about showing the value of a black man's life. It shows that the only way we go out here and protest is if a black man dies, and a black man's life is only valuable if he is dead, and only if he is dead by a white cop, a racist, or one of these beta male suburban commandos.
Beta male commando. That was a good one. Okay, wait. Let's see. Let me go back. So Evan said, what about black men getting a non-ADOS woman? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, if these guys want to go out and do what they want, they do what they want. But my personal preference is to try to find a black woman who wants to work with me. But if they want to go out here and get these non-ADOS women, good luck with that, because you're going to find the same female nature, no matter what the race is. You're going to find the same female nature. And if you're not in a place where you know how to lead, you're going to wind up in a same bad spot.
Okay, so Shawn, it would seem like you're really pushing black women. Like, okay, because we're black men, we come from black women. You're really pushing that. But I mean, don't you think it's better off to open your options to any woman as long as they're submissive, good personality,
Well, if you want to go that route, you can go that route. But I just look at the state of the state of the world. I look at what happened. See, I was around when O.J. Simpson thought he could taste the rainbow, and then later on took a ride in a Bronco. And I know how this country is regarding these interracial relationships. I mean, I look at the tragedy that happened with Bakari Henderson, and it shows me that you want to do those things, but what happens is white supremacy is going to use you as an example, or something is going to happen where you're going to find out that it's not as ideal as you think it is. And some of these women, what they will do is they'll wait for you to get your resources, like a lot of these NBA ball players who are getting with these white girls. And then what they're going to do is pull the rug out from under you. She's going to file for divorce, and all of your money is going to go to her. And these guys don't understand all the moves on the chessboard as related to taking your resources and your wealth away. Yeah, you want these women based on love, but these women are not thinking about it that way, because these whites and non-blacks, they don't marry based on feelings. They marry in order to build wealth, and they marry in order to get resources. So they're not thinking about you the same way you're thinking about her.
Okay, so let me read another comment. It says, Soul Provider, the 1985 movie The Color Purple uplifted black women, but the black non-characters in the movie were treated badly. Most white movie critics gave the movie excellent reviews. Wow, that's fucked up.
Well, I've put that movie on the barbecue for quite a few years.
I didn't even watch that movie. I'm glad I didn't. So Blaze, brother, my Blaze says, is he living out his example? So what do you think about that? So how is your hunt for black women like? Because I mean, do you have a girl right now?
I'm not looking for women. I'm looking to build. I'm looking to build this imprint, SJS Direct imprint. I'm looking to get my money straight, because a lot of guys, the problem is they're looking for women. I'm looking to build, and I'm looking to get my book sales up. I'm looking to get my resources straight, because a lot of guys, they want to go out here and get women. But the thing is, you need to start focusing on building, because once you focus on building, then you can be someone everybody sees as somebody they can take seriously. And that's one of the things, guys, they go out here, they're looking to get women, but the whole thing is those women aren't interested because they don't see you as somebody who's in a leadership role. They see you as a guy who's following and chasing, and what you want to do is start being a leader. And what I'm trying to do is focus on building myself up, because the thing is, women follow men, and they need to see somebody worth following. A lot of guys, they're not thinking about becoming the kind of guy women want to follow. They're thinking about chasing. They're buying into the Madison Avenue and Hollywood idea for women. But what you would want to do is go out here and become a leader, because what I find is when I go out here and I see the women coming in my direction, when I used to have jobs, that they would come to me. And that's where you want to be, because then you're the one who can be the one chosen instead of the one looking to seek approval and attention. And you really want to be in that position where you get chosen, because then she wants to be with you, and you're not trying to beg her to be with you.
Okay, so Evan says all the women have the same nature, but why would I choose the one that will not cooperate?
Well, the one that cooperates is the one's going to come to you. So the whole thing is, a lot of guys are taught chase the woman, but the woman will come to you if you have your stuff together.
Okay, so Shawn, if a non-black chick was submissive, everything was perfect, and came to you, started choosing on you, would you take her or no?
Well, I've had Puerto Rican women and Dominican women come to me, but I wasn't interested at the time, because I wasn't in a place where I was ready to take bring that woman on. I mean, my money wasn't at that place and I wasn't at that place. So but still, I prefer a black woman first because I want to have a black family.
Okay. So let's say you have all your shit together. So even if it was a non-black, you probably would say no. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I really want to see I want to have a black family. I really want to have a black family, and I want to build a black family.
Okay. I understand. I get it. So, okay. Let me see. Now, the NYC, I saw your comment. NYC said that's a pretty broad brush that you're painting all non-ADOS women.
Well, I'm not painting them with a pretty broad brush. It just you can't expect, because the whole thing is the mother of your children is very important out here. I mean, the mother is your first teacher, and this is the woman who's going to be teaching your children. So you have to be very careful about who you pick to be your wife, because this woman will be teaching your children. And if you get one of these non-black women who is heavily entrenched in her own culture, then your children are not going to learn black culture, and they're not going to learn the unwritten social rules for being black, because they are going to be black because your seed is the dominant seed. So she's going to teach them a culture that's not going to help that especially that boy be able to survive in the world. And a lot of them they're going to be taught this culture that's not going to help them grow to become successful and healthy. What's going to happen is they're going to grow up like Barack Obama, a chocolate-covered white man who's going out here with white women, and they're going to grow up thinking that they aren't black. They're going to grow up not understanding their culture and grow up disconnected from their culture. And that's why it's important for you to pick the right woman, because if you want to make sure your culture goes on, you have to pick a woman who will teach your culture to your children so that they can understand what it means to be black. And that's something that a lot of and then being a black American, most of all, because when you're a black American, your culture is different. And that, again, that's something only a mother can teach, and a mother will teach that first and foremost. So that's why you want to get a black man wants to get a black woman, because he needs that mother to lay that foundation that he can build on later on.
Okay, wait. So me as a Nigerian American, should I get a Nigerian woman, or a black American woman? What one?
Well, if you want to keep your culture, you would go get the Nigerian American woman. I mean, most guys, they want to get somebody because they want to keep their culture in place. I mean, when it comes down to a black American man, he wants to get a black American woman, but African men usually want to get the African woman because they want to keep their culture and they want to keep their legacy going on.
Okay. I understand. I get what you're saying, especially with Nigerian culture. It is kind of the thing that like they do prefer you to get, at least a African woman or something like that. So I get where you're coming from. I get it. I don't totally agree with it. I mean, because I just think at this current time, I mean, just find someone you can be happy with. Of course, build yourself up, focus on yourself. But I mean, at this point, God damn it. I mean, whoever can be submissive and you're attractive to and seems like a nice person you can deal with, go ahead and be happy. Because, I mean, just like you said, you only have one life to live. I mean, it would be very limiting for me to say, well, I only have to find the perfect African woman. I only have to find the perfect black woman for black love. I mean, it's like, how long of a life do you have to search for that black woman?
You don't have to search. The whole thing is that God will bring that person to you. I mean, you don't have to search. I mean, if you go out here and you do your thing and you relax, they just come to you. It just will happen like that.
Okay, so sound mind. He's asking the question. He says, so is he pro-black? He says he's not pro-black. But I mean, would you be like an in-closet pro-black? I mean, it's not like
I'm not pro-black, but I'm about black empowerment, and I'm about building up a strong black community. I mean, this is something that we're supposed to be about. Is if you're a black man, you want to be able to build your community and build your family, and we need those institutions, because this is why we get exploited by organizations like Black Lives Matter, because there are no black fathers in the community. We have no black husbands in the community, and we have no black males leading in the community. And that's not a pro-black thing. That is just somebody who, if you have any other community, you have an Indian community, they have the men in charge. If you go to an Italian community, they have the men in charge. And they put their interests first. And this is what black men have to do, is put their interest first.
Okay. So you mentioned community. Do you believe that there still is a community? And are you, let's say you find a black woman, she's into comics, she's into everything. And are you willing to save the community?
Well, I live in the community. I've lived in the community for 46 years, and I want to keep this where we are because this is what we own. I mean, if we live here, this is ours. We need to go out here. There's no saving the community. People need to understand the value of their community. The problem is with most black people, they've been brainwashed to believe the white man's ice is colder, the white man's community is better, the white man's everything is better, and they don't see a value in their own. And because if you look at other people, Arabs, Koreans, they see a value in your black community, and they take 97% of your black dollars out of your community and enrich themselves at your expense. But you have to discover your own value so that you can build that wealth for yourself. So a lot of black people, they don't see their value. They don't understand. You have $3.3 trillion in spending power in your hands. You have the ability to make people billionaires in Korea. You have the ability to make people billionaires with these Arab stores and these gas stations. You are making people billionaires, but you're not making yourself a billionaire. And if you understood your own value, then you would stop giving away your wealth to these whites and non-blacks, and you would invest it in yourself and build wealth in your own community. Because this thing is, you have the tools in your hands, but the mindset of the black man and the black woman is always about seeking white validation, but not about seeking to discover their value as black people.
NY had a statement here. It's like, would like to know, what are these highly distinctive aspects of U.S. black culture that is so different from standard U.S. culture?
Well, what makes black culture distinct is we are the great inventors and great innovators. I mean, we made rap, we made jazz, we made numerous art forms. We've made great literature like I do on the SJS Direct imprint. We have a really great and broad culture, and black culture is very distinct from any other culture. I mean, it has a different heart, it has a different soul, and a lot of people don't understand the value of black culture because it's the one culture that everybody wants to minimize, but everybody wants to steal from. I mean, Justin Timberlake and all these other white entertainers, they want to imitate our singers. And again, our culture is so distinct that and unique that people want to steal from it, but they don't want to acknowledge that we invented lots of great things and made lots of great things.
I just have to wonder, Shawn, like, if you're in a classroom full of, and I keep asking you this because millennials and Gen Z, man, honestly, they just don't give a shit. I mean, they don't care about the black love, all this other, we got to keep the culture. All they care about is, hey, let me get my career going. Let me, put my value in. Let me get myself up. Let me just date and mate if they want to marry, right? Let me just date and mate whoever the fuck, is submissive. It has a good personality, whatever, and I can deal with. They don't care about, well, it has to be black love, it has to be this. I mean, you're going to see a lot of, interracial dating is going to get even bigger. We make the joke, like I said, the joke about Blake Griffins and Currys. That is really the reality that we're dealing with. It's not that, we wanted this to happen, but, especially people who are getting red pilled, the whole black love thing is like, when you get red pilled, you kind of see through that shit.
Well, I see black love as having a tremendous value. I mean, black love is extremely important, but the problem is we have so many people from Gen Z. They grew up with no fathers and no mothers some of them bought into this integrationist rainbow stuff. And that integrationist rainbow stuff, that stuff is nice on the surface. It tells you something that makes you feel good. But the reality is, when it comes down to most of those people, they're still buying into, especially the white people, buying into the same white supremacy. They'll go out here and say, oh, date who you want, marry who you want. But then when you look at their pictures, they're all married to white and Asian people, and they're still keeping their culture in place. Meanwhile, black people are sitting there going, okay, I'm going to go and buy into the rainbow. And then they don't understand that's meant to keep you from being able to build your own community and your own culture. They want you to erase your own culture. And that's what that was part of what I call Operation Eraser, where each generation gets lighter and lighter and lighter. Right. And you buy into this, not understanding that this type of thinking will mess you up, because again, white people will say this on the surface, Asian people will say this. They're not even going to say that. And Arab people, we know the Muslims, they're not even going with this in the first place. They tell their kids, you're going to marry a Muslim boy and you're going to marry a Muslim girl. And the Chinese, they're saying you're going to marry a Chinese and you're going to marry a Chinese girl. And that's just how it is. But black people, we buy into this stuff and we believe it the Kool-Aid, and we don't even understand how it works against us.
Okay. So the Ben Simone comment about her not liking people who are 9 to 5. Did you hear about that crap?
Yeah, I heard about that silliness, but if you don't have a 9 to 5 man, who's going to pay the bills? That's the critical question you need to ask her, because if you have a man out here, he has to work in order to make a living. If you want a man who can actually be a provider and build a family with you, he's going to have to work 9 to 5. I mean, what is she looking for? Some of these celebrity guys who is going to work even longer hours because he's under contract by the studio. Guys out here, they are working. And if you don't want a guy who works, then you're just going to get Pookie and Ray Ray.
Right. So would anything what would convince you to go back into the manosphere, if anything?
I don't see anything that I would want to go. It's just too much dysfunction over there. It's not about anything constructive. I want to see, if there was a manosphere, they were doing things talking about supporting black-owned businesses, building black-owned businesses, and getting more customers for black-owned businesses. I would talk to them, but if they're not about that, then I don't see any use for talking to the manosphere, because I don't want to sit there and complain about black women all day, because complaining about black women does not make them change. They are who they are. They're set in who they are since they were 16 years old, and complaining about who they are isn't going to make them change. What you have to do is change your perception of women, and you have to walk away and say, look, they are who they are. And if I want to get involved with what I believe to be higher quality women, then I have to go out here and put the work in on myself. And once I put this work in on myself, then I can start working on improving myself and moving to other social circles. Because if these social circles are broken and damaged, filled with damaged people, then you have to leave those social circles and make efforts to move to another social circle and find those who have more similar interests and things in common with you. I mean, that's one of the things I had to do since the late 80s when I saw these girls with these drug dealers and these gang bangers. I said, no, look, I don't want to be around this crowd. So I need to put work in on myself and move on and leave these women right there. But what the manosphere wants to do is complain about these women and then secretly go back around the same types of females. And they want that woman and they want her to change, not understanding she is who she is. And if you want to get with a better woman, you need to go out here and do better for yourself.
I mean, okay, so like I said, this is what you're talking about is, like I said, the Windows XP niggas, the 2.0. But we're trying to separate from that bullshit and just focus on the thinking man topics, the other stuff that's important besides the pussy and the views. So I would advise maybe you check out some other channels, perhaps.
I've checked out quite a few of them, but it's just repetitive, boring content. I mean, the only guy who I know who makes good videos, he's outside the manosphere, are guys like Ringo, Mad Voodoo Man. They make Iceman. He's been talking a lot about economics. He's been talking a lot about white supremacy. He's been also talking about changing your thinking and producer and consumer. When you watch a Mad Voodoo Man live stream, you're going to learn a lot from him. So when I watch different guys, I get different perspectives, but I just get tired of hearing black men all talking about black women all the time. I want to hear about black business. I want to hear about, I also listen to a guy called Chris Miller or Black Opinion. He talks about black business and things like that. And you want to diversify your thoughts, and I can't do that with the manosphere because really don't want to be talking about black women all the time because it's a boring, repetitive subject, and yeah, it'll get you views and attention, and they don't really, and it doesn't really work at all.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, you're true. Like the pussy and views, yeah, it will get you views. But yeah, we're trying to separate from that. You know, it's not easy because that's how the space was generated. But yeah, you're right. You're right on that. It is about pussy and views. So let's go back to the book. So what would you advise someone who maybe wants to write their own book, their own story, maybe a short story, or get into writing? What would you advise for those guys?
Well, you got to start very slowly. You have to really, because you have to start very slowly and take your time and just really organize your thoughts and put together a really clear and cohesive argument when you're writing a book. If you're doing nonfiction, just take your time and make sure that everything fits into your thesis. Like when I did Man Crisis, I made sure everything fit into my thesis about this crisis going on with men, and making sure that all the arguments were sound. So you want to do your research. You want to make sure everything comes together. And when you're doing fiction, you want to make sure that everything fits together to build your world up.
Okay.
So if you guys want to pick up the Man Crisis, you can pick it up on Amazon by clicking the link in the chat. So that's what you need. The whole thing is you just got to take your time, and it's not going to happen overnight when you're a writer. A lot of guys think that they can come in on the first book, but the first book is usually terrible. But it takes a long time. It's a long process. It takes years to do. So.
Okay. And I put your channel in the chat for anyone who hasn't seen his channel. He has about almost 12K subscribers, so he's been going in for a while. Do you have any goals future goals you have maybe for this year, next year? Or?
Yeah, well, I have some future goals. I have one goal of trying to get my sales up for the SJS Direct imprint. I'm trying to get more people buying more SJS Direct books, like my men's issues books like The Man Crisis, Stop Simping, my ISIS series books like the John Haynes series. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. And I'm also trying to work on things like expanding the SJS Direct imprint by publishing the first graphic novel. So I'm trying to raise funds for that. So I'm trying to do that through things like the Patreon, which is something I'm trying to do is through that. I'm trying to raise the funds to pay for the pages of the first SJS Direct graphic novel. And I'm also getting ready to gear up for the 2021 catalog. And I'm trying to do that right now. Now, NYC Songman asked a question I'm going to answer. How do you feel about the U.S. black woman, black man dating situation since your observations about the 80s? I feel things have deteriorated since the 80s because the problem, it used to be somewhat decent until the late 80s when we had super hypergamy, but now we've gotten this hostility between black men and black women. And black men and black women, really, a lot of them, they have bought into all of this anger and hostility that they have learned. So it's a lot of times difficult because people have come in and they've bought into a lot of emotional baggage and a lot of lies about black men and black women. So it's hard to date black men and black women because there's not much love. I mean, I remember in the early 80s, there was a lot of love, but in this day, you don't see a lot of love out here for black men and black women. I mean, we've practically been taught to hate each other, and that's really the saddest part because black men and black women, we could have something great if we learned how to love each other and work together.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree to that. I just think there's I think one of the problems, of course, you add feminism, you add the hookup culture. Really, for us, especially for us millennials and Gen Z, the hookup culture really just fucked shit up for us. Then you have the media spewing out all these, these blows to black men almost every month, and especially if you're starting to, I think in black men is going to start to see these patterns and realize like, what the hell, But I think the hookup culture really kind of fucked us up.
Well, hookup culture messes everything up because it messes up your mind and it messes up your spirit. because all that sleeping with different people, it really messes up a lot of these women because it messes up their minds. Because when they sleep around like that, the DNA of each of those men is inside of that woman, and it just creates mental illness inside of that woman. So that's the hookup culture is not good for women, and it's also not good for men because you can't bond. You can't really bond with a partner because you're just randomly having sex with different people, and it messes with your mind.
So the one of the BLM chicks, I forgot her name, but she was the twerk in front of the cops. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. It's a sad and embarrassing thing.
Okay, so what do you think about that?
It's just embarrassing, and again, it just shows the weakness of black people. It shows that some black folks have no respect for themselves. They have not been taught, this is not part of how a healthy person protests. And when you go out here and you do stuff like that, you're showing that you're somebody I don't need to respect. I mean, you don't need to respect something. I mean, if you want respect, you have to act in a way that's respectable. And when you see somebody dancing in front of you, when you're an authority figure, you look at them and go, you don't see them as somebody you're going to take seriously.
Okay.
Far
So
side of the
here,
fan asks about how about the dating sites? No, avoid the dating sites. I mean, dating sites are where people tell a lot of lies, and it's where a lot of people get taken advantage of. I mean, in my very own South Bronx neighborhood where I used to live, a guy went on online dating. He went to where I used to live in the building where I grew up when as a kid, and he got robbed. So there's nobody on dating but people who have really low self-esteem, predators, and people who are looking for something easy. They don't really want to go out here and develop the interpersonal skills to go out here and learn how to communicate with another person. These dating places, these dating apps, again, this is a shortcut that leads to failure. You're going to have to go out there and take your lumps, take your bumps, hear the rejections, and that's just part of life. I mean, that's something a lot of people, they want to use these things for shortcuts, but all you do is you wind up dealing with the worst people overall, because people with confidence, they go out here and they get involved with people face to face. They make their connections face to face. They can get phone numbers face to face. They're not worried about that because they have that confidence in themselves. They radiate that energy. So nobody is using online dating except the most desperate people out there.
Yeah, the dating apps. I mean, it's kind of gotten out of hand. I mean, back when Facebook was first coming out, and then we had MySpace. Everything was kind of cool, but something people take advantage of something, and it gets to shit. So the dating apps are they're fucked up. They're pretty fucked up right now. But especially the chicks. Some of the chicks, like you said, some of them are addicted to that short-term, celebrity feeling. They love those likes, even the social media, the Instagram. They love that Cash App coming up. They like people looking at their pics. They like the streaming. I mean, OnlyFans. What do you think about OnlyFans?
That's just for Pornhub for amateurs. I mean, if your woman is on OnlyFans, that's a sign that she's not getting her needs met. If you're in a relationship with her and if she's out there looking for that attention, then it shows that she's got some daddy issues. She's got some serious issues. I mean, what woman would want to go on OnlyFans to get attention for herself when that makes you really look bad? It makes you really look weak. I mean, I look at it again like somebody who goes on Pornhub, posting videos of themselves on a Pornhub, because the only women, again, it's like prostitution. You're paying people to look at you, but that's just not something any decent woman wants to do. She doesn't want to put that image out there because that's not going to attract the type of man that is going to be a man of character. That's going to attract a clown and these predatory guys and these players, guys who look to use women, and that's not somebody you would want to deal with. I mean, when your woman is doing OnlyFans, or if a woman is doing OnlyFans and doing Instagram modeling, that's not somebody who is wife material. That's a woman who really, again, needs some counseling.
Okay. NYC here. He said, do you spend much time going out and intermingling with others in different parts of the heavily populated town? You speak of you might not.
I do go out quite a bit, but the whole thing is I'm so busy working on videos and doing books and book promotion that I have only a limited window to be going out. I mean, I have a very busy schedule. I mean, I'm so busy these days. It's like I'm working at a 9-to-5 job these days, just getting these videos together because I do practically daily content. I'm working on books on my catalog, and I do go out when I can go out. I mean, the whole thing is you have time. You have a when you're working for yourself, you're responsible for everything. And when you're working for yourself, you have to make sure everything is working so that it can continue to make you money. I mean, when you have your own business, it's a completely different way of life because you're the guy who, if you're not making sure things are going right, they're not going to go right. And again, I'm running a YouTube channel, a publishing house, and I'm doing live streams. So I do get out, but the whole thing is I have work to do. I have things to do because if I don't work, I don't eat. So I got to take care of my business before I can go out here and do all of this running around out here. Now I do go to my markets. I go out here to supermarkets. I go to different places, but I don't have. When you have a business, it practically takes up a lot of your time.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's links for his Cash App, Shawn's books. I have links in the description too. If anyone wants to come on and ask Shawn some questions, the link is in the chat. So if you want to ask him any questions, you can get on the panel. But I definitely appreciate it, Shawn. I mean, it's an hour. It doesn't even feel like an hour. But let's go back to the nerd flow a little bit. What do you think about all these movies being delayed? The whole MCU is just, I don't even know. I haven't kept up with it. So everything's being delayed,
Well, the theaters couldn't open because of the pandemic, so they had no choice other than to let those movies sit. So there's nothing anybody can do. As long as there's a pandemic going on, they can't release these movies because people aren't going to want to come out to the theater and spend money on them. So they don't want to lose money on these films. So what they're doing is just saying, okay, we're going to delay these films, wait till the pandemic is over. Then we can open up the theaters and go out here and try to make this money.
It seems that they're trying to push the digital release format a lot. I'm not sure how that's going to work because you have to compete with, the Netflix, the Disneys.
Well, they would lose a lot of money on that because they want to make that money on the theater, and any type of money that they make in digital release that's considered secondary and tertiary income. I mean, digital release is actually considered the fourth wave of income for them because usually it's theatrical release, foreign release, home video, and then they consider digital streaming, and it's actually syndication before digital streaming. So they would lose hundreds of millions of dollars with a digital release that they could have gotten had they waited for a theatrical release. And that's why they're waiting for the theatrical release, because they would lose hundreds of millions of dollars on this film. Because these studios, they make their primary money from the theatrical release, and the rest is considered gravy. They don't want to lose that primary income because that's how they recoup their production costs.
Mm-hmm. And Evan, Chadwick Boseman still, yes, he's still Black Panther. Black Panther 2 is still coming out. I don't know when, but it's still pushed for release. I'm actually glad they pushed Black Widow. What do you think about the Black Widow film?
I don't know. I don't think that one's going to be a good one. The trailer looked really weak, and it's not a film I would really care about, especially now that we know Black Widow is dead. So it's one of those films that the critical question that most screenwriters are out here, they ask that question, why should we care? And with this film, I don't have a reason to care to watch it.
Yeah, I agree. I've kind of lost interest. I've lost interest, but whenever those MC movies come out, I'll watch them. You did a review on Stargirl, and I'm trying to figure out why the hell are you still watching CW, bro?
No, I watched that for one of my viewers, and I also wanted to give the show a fair shake. Now, I don't watch CW shows, but people asked me to take a look at this show, so I took a look at it, and I saw that it was a lot better than other CW shows, but we don't know if the Berlanti curse is going to come in. Season 1 looks fairly strong, and Jeff Johns seems to have a better handle on things than other producers have had. So when I look at the show, it looks pretty solid overall, and it looks pretty solid as related to storytelling.
Okay, looks like Jerome will come on for a little bit in a few minutes. Let me see. Reading any more comments here. He says a lot of these theaters are done. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, it's not cheap to afford those buildings and that all that lighting and stuff. So I'm gonna see a lot. I'm sure a lot of those things are gonna shut down. It says, but Shawn, more people went to movies back in days than they do now. So how come producers are always worrying about money coming in from the theaters?
Well, they're worrying because that's their first source of income. When they go out here and they release these films, they want to make that money at the theater. They want that opening weekend because that's how they make their money. If they don't make their money there, then it's harder to recoup their costs. So the theater is very important to these movie studios. I mean, once they've sold the film and done the advertising for the film, they want to make that money at that theater because that's where they make their prime source of income. Everything else is considered secondary, but they're looking to recoup their costs on the front end because they've had a lot of costs as related to this film, and they don't want to wait to the back end to get that money because if they have to wait that long, they have the chances of pulling a profit start to decrease.
Mm. Okay, let's just see. I'm reading any more comments. He says, I'm probably older than you. Okay, he's talking to that guy. Let's see. Let me see. Does anyone have any? I'll put the link out again. I think anyone else wants to come on. So what do you think about this whole Corona thing going on? A lot of people are trying to fearmonger the whole second wave of it.
They're trying to fearmonger it, but it's not working because people they're not afraid anymore. The thing is that they're more afraid of their economic situation than they are of this virus. What they're really afraid of is losing their homes, they've already lost their jobs. You have 40 million out of work. And this is the thing that they're more terrified about. It's about jobs and the economy. And when you have 40 million people out of work, they're thinking more about if they're going to have a place to stay and have something to eat than a virus. For them, the virus, the fear mongering, it doesn't faze them anymore because they have something else to be more afraid of. And they also have things to be angry about because they trusted the government to help them, and the government really has not put the effort to help them. I mean, all we got was a $1,200 stimulus check, and some of us, like myself, didn't even get it because if you get put on as a dependent on your taxes, you don't even get it. And people, they don't know where their next meal is gonna be, where they're gonna be able to go back to work. So people have things that they're more afraid of than a COVID. So they would rather take their chances with the COVID than go out here and be homeless or be with a point where they're practically starving in the street.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's it's going to be an interesting year. It's a very interesting year. I'm kind of ready for 2021, honestly. I mean, this year's been just a blow through. What do you think about the whole George Floyd thing? I think you did a video on it.
I did several of it. I think that was a sad thing that happened. It was a murder that took place right in front of us, and the whole world saw this murder take place in front of us, and that's why everybody's so angry, because police were supposed to protect and serve, but we clearly see a case of the police abusing their power, and we saw that police abusing their power, not only the police, but we saw the owners of that store abusing their power by racially profiling George Floyd, because had they not called the police on this man would still be alive, and had Amy Klobuchar did her job, this man, Derek Chapin, wouldn't even be on the job to murder George Floyd.
Mm-hmm. So how about the recent Atlanta police thing? What do you think about that one?
That one's a gray area. So when I look at that situation, what happened was he got emotional, and he was partially responsible for his own demise, because had he not gotten emotional, all he would have got was a DUI, and he might have been kicked on Monday, but he would have still been alive. But the whole thing is he got emotional when the police officer put the handcuffs on him, ran away, grabbed a weapon, and he practically is partially responsible. Now, the other part, the officer did use excessive force, because you did not need to use a weapon to neutralize the threat. This guy only had a taser, and the taser had already been, I think, activated. So the guy was no threat to anyone. They could have neutralized him by calling for backup or tackling him because he was already drunk. So I see how the officers used excessive force, but I also see how he also contributed to his own demise by not going along with the arrest. And he could have fought in court, but that's what happens when you're not really all there. And that's why I said the unwritten social rule for black men was you don't drink when you're outside or go out here and get drunk. You go do your drinking at home so that you don't wind up in a situation where you put your life on the line.
Okay, and we have some more comments here. It says, I agree with your review of the Five Bloods. I'm starting to think that Spike Lee copies this movie from others. Oh, I did see that film. It was interesting. What do you think about that movie?
Well, it wasn't one of Spike's best films. I mean, the story really didn't come together, and it really didn't come together because he didn't let the characters tell their own story. What happened was he wanted to put all of the social justice and identity politics in there, and that didn't really help anything at all. I mean, that film could have been something, but it just fell apart, especially in the second and third acts where it just devolved into a action movie, and it could have been a far better film had he focused more on character development and story and really given the story another rewrite.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. It was a little bit of a snooze fest. Like, I don't even remember the film. I mean, I thought it was going to be good, but I was like, it had some good, decent actors in it, but I snoozed halfway through that film. I probably won't watch that again. Let's see. He says, Nimble says, I still think they should have quarantined the end compromised and left the rest to work. Yeah, I agree with that. And you know what's really stupid? A lot of people are not wearing masks, especially in fucking Dallas. People here are just going about with no mask. It's very weird. I don't know what's going on.
Well, some people, especially in conservative states, they're very defiant when it comes down to orders like that. And I myself, I went out today and I almost forgot. I forgot my mask and I had to go back and go get it. But you need to have New York. By law, you have to have a mask. But a lot of people are defying it because they don't really see COVID as any sort of threat. In fact, they're just frustrated and tired with COVID because they're thinking about their economic situation. I can tell you, personal experience, that when you're worried about your money, you're not really thinking about anything else, because if your money is stable, then you're more likely to comply with things like mask requests and things like that, because you know you're going to be secure. But a lot of people, they're terrified because they don't know if their bills are going to be paid. They don't know if their taxes are going to be paid. And they don't know if they're going to be able to do what they need to do or be able to live the next day. So they're really thinking about that. And that's the thing that has them mostly scared. So I really understand why a lot of people are becoming defiant, because they're not seeing any sort of, they don't see things working out for them. They're frustrated and they're scared because they're looking at their economic situation more than anything else.
Rock, I think, well, at least for Dallas, I think they closed at a certain point, then they reopened. So shit's been open. The only thing that's mainly closed is like a couple like dinners places and stuff, or diners or restaurants. Like, but for the most part, everything's fucking open. I mean, there's cars everywhere, at least in Dallas. I don't know about the rest of Texas though. I don't know about Florida. I'm not in Florida. I think Jerome was here, but I think his signal might be. Oh, there he's again. Let me see. Yo.
Yeah, my bad, man. I'm having some issues. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I'm trying to learn this new mic and stuff, man. So.
Oh, finally you got it. Nice.
I know, man. Thank God.
Oh, you just need to watch some videos on it and you'll get it.
But I was going to ask, man, but you pretty much asked every question I was curious to ask. The last two questions you asked, I was actually about to ask those.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was it about like the pro-black thing?
Yeah, especially about the one with the stripper that was dancing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah. And yeah, she made a video trying to defend herself, saying, "Oh, well, I'm just trying to rep my, my alphabet, whatever, and all that."
Bro, nobody can explain that. Like, that was damn near embarrassing.
Yeah, that was really embarrassing. So Shawn, because we have this space for a purpose, right? Because we're not really able to talk about a lot of these topics from the outside, unless you have a couple of people that are red pilled. But for the most part, the red pill thing I think is still very small. I don't think it's a lot of people. Would you still advise people to make content online for this space, even if it wasn't manosphere? Like, is this thing in black man?
Well, making topics of talking about men's issues is something every man who wants to make those type of videos can do. I mean, you don't have to put a label on it like manosphere. You don't have to put a label on it like red pill. You just like what I'm doing right now. I talk about men's issues, and again, I've been talking about men's issues for years, and I just want to be able to help men improve the quality of their lives, because I know a lot of guys grew up without fathers. A lot of guys grew up, they didn't get the male life skills that they needed. So I would make videos talking about dealing with workplace simps or dealing with other situations that a lot of men, they're not learning about, and that these are life skills that they're not getting. And using examples like I see in the media, like these incidents that go on to teach men. Like, for example, we had an incident where one of these beta male police officers decided to look at this woman's license. He saw her coming out of the Planet Fitness, decided to look at her license plate, bring it up in the system, and then decided he was going to send her text messages. I wanted to teach why this guy practically destroyed his career, or just trying to call himself getting the attention of this woman. And I wanted to teach why this was something you just don't do, because his behavior was downright creepy. I mean, the whole idea of you going into look at her license plate to go into the computer database that's meant to try to get felons and warrants, find out if there are felonies and warrants out here. He violated the public trust just to get a woman's attention. And he did all this because he didn't have a good teaching in boundaries or social skills. Because all he had to do was, if it would have been considered a little forward, just walk up to that woman and introduce himself. And that would have been the end of it. But because he was so scared of rejection, he went down this road trying to go into the police database, get her phone, get her information, and then he sends her a text and practically destroys his career, all because he wanted to get the attention of a woman. So I think when it comes down to it, you want to teach about men's issues, teach about things that men need to know, because men aren't really being taught what they need to know, because in single parent households, and even some of these households with fathers, they're not getting the education they're going to need to survive in the world out here. They're getting told things from a female perspective, and you really need something presented to you from a balanced male perspective in order to learn what you need to survive out here. So that type of information is something guys need. And again, you don't really need to put a manosphere label on it. You can just do, just like I'm doing right now, general men's issues topics, and guys will learn, like I've been doing for years with books like Stop Simping, which has helped out a lot of men all over the world, and books like The Man Crisis, which is transforming men's lives. You can do those type of books and do those type of videos and just teach men what they need to know and what they can do in certain situations.
Hey, Shawn, let me ask you a question. So would you say there's a rise of black incels going on?
I think that there is a rise in incels of all races. I mean, we have an incel problem because these guys are being taught these dysfunctional ideas from your television, your film, the porn industry, and these single mother households. And even with some of these beta male fathers, they're taught these dysfunctional ideas about how to get this girl, and they get upset because this ideal girl that they want doesn't pay them any attention. So we're getting this rise of incels because these men are not being taught the male life skills they need to know about how to court the opposite sex and how to have a relationship with the opposite sex. These guys want a fantasy, but the whole thing is they're missing out on all the real women out there because they don't want to go out here and do the work. They think that since that they're there, the women are just supposed to be, this perfect woman is supposed to come to them, but they don't understand that you got to put in some work too if you want to have a relationship, because relationships are work. These guys don't want to put in the work. They just want to be able to have, they think that they can have sex and graduate to manhood, but that's not how it works.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good question, Charles. Have you heard of anything? Have you heard of the pink pill by any chance?
I have not heard of this pill at all.
Okay. All right. So the pink pill is, think of it as the opposite of SYSBM. So it's basically SYSBM for Black women. There's this chick on YouTube trying to push the message that, Black women should go to Europe and, basically, date Chad and Billy and just leave Black men alone. What do you think about that?
Well, that's the same thing as the swirler or the passport mail. It's the exact same argument. It's not. It's the same thing in a repackaged gimmicks. Just like the Black women who said that they were going their own way a couple of years ago. We saw where that went. That went absolutely nowhere. It's females trying to copy in order to get the attention of men. And the only thing you can do with that is just ignore it, like the Black women who said they were going their own way. Basically, these are just swirlers in a brand new package. And all they want to do is deal with their brads and their billies. So leave them to their brads and their billies. And they're going to wind up having failed relationships anyway, because it's based on skin color. And all they're going to do is gravitate to the same type of Pookies and Ray Rays, but in a different color.
Right.
We said Pookies and Ray Rays.
A different color. That's funny. But okay, but for these Black women, would you push your Black love, pro-Black thing?
They're not going to listen, so I'm just going to leave them to learn the hard way.
They never listen, man. They never.
So just leave them to learn.
Okay, got it.
Step aside and let nature run its course.
I say we give up, man. I say we just let it burn, man. I'm done trying to explain to Black women.
Oh, that's a good question too. So there is this quote, the "let it burn" phrase. It's basically like this giving up and just focus on yourself and your happiness. Don't worry about being the fixer-upper or save the community or throw the cape on. Just worry about yourself, your family, and what do you think about that?
Well, I'm all about building the community up, but there are certain parts of it that I have nothing to do with. I mean, if those people want to go that direction, they can go in that direction, but I'm going to keep building my part, and I'm going to keep working on my part, because as a Black business owner, I'm going to work to continue to build. But if people want to destroy their part of the community, that's their own thing. And if they want to squander their resources and their opportunity, especially their time, that's on them. I mean, I'm going to work towards continuing to produce my books, and I'm going to continue to work on producing my videos. And I'm going to continue to work on what I need to do, but I'm not going to worry about those who are out here. I mean, they want to burn their part up and then have somebody else take theirs. That's on them. But I'm going to work to make mine the best it can be.
Okay. So Evan's bringing the heat to you. He said, so badger to Black men, though, on the other side.
Well, I'm not going to even bother with them, because after I dealt with these passport Negroes, I'm just going to let them learn the hard way, too. I mean, there's nothing I can do. Certain people, you have to follow what Jesus said and shake the dust off your feet as a testimony to them. And that's what I'm going to do with some of these passport guys, these swirlers, these pink pillars, and leave the dust off my feet as a testimony to them, shake the dust off my feet and walk away from them and let them learn the hard way.
So, Shawn, what about the young Black men that are like 18 or 19?
I'll give them help and guidance if they want it, but if they don't want it, it's on them. It's for you to come and get that help. And I've had a lot of 18, 19-year-old guys come to me. I've had 20-something guys. If they want the help, I give them the help and the advice. But if they don't want it, that's on them. It's what you want. If you want to listen, you listen. But if not, that's on you.
Okay, I hear you. Oh man. Let me see. Boomer's laughing, Nimble's laughing. What did NYC? Oh, he said, I don't think the 5+ were based on the book, but it's based on an old script from white writers from many years ago. Okay. I got another movie question for you. Did you see Logan?
No, I have not.
Man, you got to see that, bro.
You talking about Logan from like a couple of years ago, Logan?
Yeah, the movie Wolverine came out, 2018, 2019?
Well, 2018, I was doing looking for a lot of real estate, so I was busy. I was really busy 2018 because my father had passed away, and we were looking for a new place to move. And I was also looking to continue get my business, because I was doing a lot of appearances. So I really didn't have time for movies at that time. I was in a really dark place at that time.
Oh, okay. And condolences. About that.
Thank you.
So you've been in New York for quite a bit. Do you ever consider moving to another big town or new big city?
I would consider it if there was a job tied to it, but I can't afford to move until I can get another job. But I would consider it if there was a job right and the money right, I would consider moving. Have to learn how to drive though, because I don't know how to drive. So, but I would do it if I got an offer to do something and I was able to make enough money to live out there. If I got a good job offer, I would leave New York if it was good and I had the good terms and everything. I would go and leave, but I'm content to stay here. But I'm staying here because I'm looking for job opportunities to come.
Okay. Now I'm gonna put the link up again if anyone wants to come in and ask questions. But if there's not any more questions, I'll end this show because
Where is Zero at?
He was here. I know Zero. Zero was here. But I don't know. Maybe he has a stream coming next. I don't know. But I'll leave there's the link, so anyone else wants to come on, you can. But in the next 5 or so minutes, or 5-10 minutes, and then I'll end the show because we are at hour 30, so we have a pretty good time right now.
Oh, there he is. Zero, come on.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Oh, okay. Yeah, Zero, you can come on and ask Shawn a question. I know you want to ask him a question.
You like, this ain't the Bernard Riley show.
Oh, yeah. No, hell no, never. No. This is
there's no obsidian here.
Oh, okay, NYC. What's up, NYC? Yeah, you there?
How's it going, everybody?
Going good.
Uh-oh. Turn this off. There you go.
What's going on, NYC?
Hey, what's up, Jerome? Mr. Soul Provider. Great
hey,
host as usual. And the one and only Mr. Shawn James. How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
First off, congratulations on your wide body of work. I know it's easy putting together stuff that will enlighten and entertain. So kudos to you and keep on creating. You know, every day I wish my father were here. I wish I could make his breakfast for him, wash his car. I wish I could talk to him about the events that are going on. Shawn, how was your relationship with your father?
Well, it was all right. I mean, we weren't really close, but we respected each other. There was always a great respect for each other.
Would you say that well, let me ask you this. How much has he influenced your worldview, your writing, your day-to-day interactions, would you say? Did you live with the guy?
We were separate. He lived on one part of the city. I lived in another part. But my worldview came from my own observations. I mean, I learned some things from him about the world of work. I learned some things from him about finance and wealth. I mean, he taught me about how to build wealth. He taught me how to manage money. I mean, he taught me a lot of different life skills that have helped me over the years. And he taught me a lot of different things. I wish I learned how to drive from him, but that was the one thing I didn't learn from him.
Well, it's never too late for that. You learned a lot from your father. You learned more than a lot of people.
Yeah.
I dare say that you're fortunate.
Yeah,
did you guys hang out once you became an adult?
I went to visit him on the regular all the time. I used to see him all the time.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have other family members, but I don't mention them because they request me not to talk about them.
Oh. Okay. I was going to ask you if you grew up with them, but you can't talk about them.
We did grow up and live together, but I do not talk about them because they have requested I do not discuss them.
Understood. What made you, as a source of the bulk of your writing, look to the future and the past as opposed to being a chronicler of day-to-day goings-on, particularly living in New York, a melting pot such as that?
Well, I just go by whatever inspires me, and if I see something that inspires me for a story idea, I just go ahead and write on that. I mean, I usually go on certain things like past and view that like that because that's just what inspires me.
Now, do most of your writings take place in the past?
Not mostly. Some of them take place in the present. I mean, the John Haynes series takes place in the present. The ISIS series takes place in the present. The E-Steam series takes place in the present. Spicerella takes place in the present. But certain books take place in the past, like All About Nikki takes place in the 90s. Thetis takes place in the 90s. Spellbound takes place in 1989. ISIS Imitation of Life takes place in 1937. It just depends on what I want to write about. I'll pick a time period and I'll do that. Like my most recent novel, Eternal Night, takes place in 1994, but that's because I want to make sure that the context of history fits within the continuity, and I want to make some points about that point in time. But usually, a lot of times, even though I'm writing in the past, I make it like it sounds like it's in the present.
I got you.
Hey, what's up?
You were scoring quite a few points when you were talking with Soul Provider, and I just wanted to let you know. And I'm sorry what happened with the division between yourself and other elements of this sector. But I listened to your every word, and I used to watch your videos. I certainly did, and I like your calm take on things. And you did tell the truth. You did. You seem to be influenced by religion quite a bit.
Well, not religion. I'm related to. I have a relationship with God. I don't do religion. Religion is man-made rules. God is a completely different thing.
Well, I should have said spirituality, because religion has garnered itself such a bad name. Spirituality. Sorry about that. Do you go to church?
No, I don't deal with the church. I just read the Bible and I study the principles of the Bible.
I got you. And that informs your work.
Yeah.
Well, again, I want to say, that's really a big deal for someone to have a body of work such as yours. And you're definitely to be congratulated. That shows a lot of discipline and creativity.
Oh, thank you.
We're lucky to have you. And I'm definitely going to hit up Amazon. I'm very proud of you because I write songs. And I know how difficult it is to rearrange those same 12 notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I know. I mean, I don't know what that is, but I know from writing books, it's a major challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. You'll be set with this thinking that all the great ones have been written already.
Yeah.
And then a Shawn Jane comes along.
Yeah.
The literary world on its head. That's what I'm hoping for you.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for too.
What's up, Big Zero? Come on in here, brother.
What's up with y'all?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much, man. Just listening in.
How's your roof, bro?
It's done.
Okay.
So no more tap dancing on the top.
Okay. You don't have a question for Shawn? You have a question for him?
No, man. I'm just listening. I've heard this argument like a million times.
Speak your mind, Zero. Speak your mind.
I'm all good, man. Y'all go ahead.
Go ahead, Zero. This is not Bernard Riley.
I literally don't even have anything. I'm just listening.
Okay. Cool. Let me see. Can you put your links in the chat again, Shawn?
All right, I can put them in. Okay. I'm going to start with the Cash App link because that's the easiest one for me. Okay. You can donate via Cash App, and you can donate to the Patreon to help me get the first graphic novel for the SJS Direct imprint. And you can try all of my books on Amazon by clicking the link to my page.
Okay, cool. So you made a recent book, didn't you? 'Cause I think I saw a new ad.
I have two new recent books. I have John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, which is now available in paperback and Kindle format. I'm going to put that up there.
What was the new title you put? Because I saw a new
Well,
cover for it.
yeah, it's The Temptation of John Haynes has a new cover. But that's one I'm trying relaunching with a new cover from Mike Williams. That's in line with the other books in the John Haynes series. So I'm gonna leave a link to that one.
So where did you get the idea for the new chapter?
Well, it's not a new chapter; it's a new cover.
Well, I mean a new story.
No, I just got the idea because it was a storyline I had started with Man Who Rules the World, and I wanted to build on that storyline because that was originally supposed to be the Man Who Rules the World storyline. But I got another idea when my mother got sick, and I ran with that one instead. So this is that Man with Nothing to Lose was actually a follow-up to Man Who Rules the World storyline in the first chapter, and that's where I got the idea for that one. I also have a new ISIS series story. Let me see if I can find that one. Okay, where is it?
So can you like give me like the process of how you do each book? Because
I do each book. I usually start with the John Haynes series where I'm doing stories. I pick a story point from a point in the novel, like Temptation. I pick a point from Temptation of John Haynes or Man Who Rules the World, and I pick from one of story point from one of theirs to build on into a later storyline. Sort of like comic book writing because I always wanted to write comics. So I'll pick a story point and then I'll use that to make the next year's story. So for this year, like with John Haynes, I was picking a story point from the first chapter of Man Who Rules the World with John Haynes. That's the confrontation with the Blob. And I use that to build the story for Man with Nothing to Lose. Now for ISIS, the Main Event, which is the next book that I'm going to talk about, that came from a storyline I started in ISIS, The Ultimate Fight, way back in 2012. And that was the storyline I call the Nemesis arc. And it was another story, Power of the Princess, that built on that. So usually with the SJS Direct Universe stories, I pick story points from older stories to build newer stories on. And it's just like a comic book run. So it's like I'm writing like a comic book. And what I'm doing is building on the points that I started in one story to further be developed in another story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man, I don't know how you do it, man. You push a lot of content out. I don't know how you do it, but
well, when you're trying to make money and you're trying to make a living, it can drive you to work really hard. So I'm looking to try to get myself together so I can make a living at this. And I don't have a full-time job right now. If I had a full-time job, there would be far less content. But because I don't have a job, all I do is work on content because that's the way I have revenue coming in. That's the way, because again, this for me is work for me. So I want to give people the very best as related to my work, and I want to keep producing quality work. So a guy who has a job, he's going to go out here and he doesn't have a job. This is all he does is produce content, because sometimes YouTube won't monetize a video. So I have to make 2 or 3 videos in that case, so one can get monetized. And with the books, I have to make 2 or 3 books because sometimes one book won't sell and another one will sell. And that's how you generate revenue in the publishing world, because some things don't make money and you have to have other things to come in to make money for those that don't.
So I keep asking you this question about the millennials and the Gen Z. How would you convince them to invest in the community? How would you convince them?
Well, the whole thing is the way you invest is by starting your own business ventures. Starting your own entrepreneurial things. Once you start investing in yourself and into building your own businesses, that allows you to build a better quality of life in your community. You live in this place, and as you start starting businesses and making money, then you can start buying more parts of your community, and that allows you to have some ownership of it. So a lot of people talk about the so-called community, but the whole thing is this could be yours, because if these Arabs and these Chinese and Koreans can buy and rent parts of this neighborhood to open their stores, why can't you take your resources and start making a plan to open up your own businesses or even open up your own businesses at home. I mean, I started SJS Direct in a bedroom and using a laptop, and that type of business is right there waiting for you. I mean, I see all these YouTubers back in the day, especially a lot of the Gothy YouTubers. They were building pretty good platforms and they were getting sponsorships and all that stuff. And again, it's all about what you want to do.
But how about the, I mean, a lot of the black businesses got torn up in a lot of the protests. How about that?
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean you have to give up. I mean, you can find a way to keep going. I mean, I've run into setbacks. I've had books that I published that didn't make any money. So I don't give up. The whole thing is you have to keep persevering. You can't let anything hold you back. And the thing is that black folks, we get discouraged at one little thing and want to give up, but we can't give up. I mean, you really are passionate about something, you're going to persevere. I mean, I've had books, again, that have barely sold. Some of them that have sold maybe 5 or 6 copies, but I still go out here and still continue publishing because I believe in my mission and I believe in my work. I mean, and then I'll have books that'll sell very well, but it's about what you're driving for. It's what do you want to do? I mean, what are you passionate about?
Okay, so what if I'm a millennial, I start my own business, and I'm like, you know what, fuck the community. I don't want to put my shit in there. I just want to put it wherever I want to. What would you say to me?
Well, I don't know, because if you don't have a community, then you're not going to have anybody support you. And when your business hits hard times, you're not going to have anybody there to back you up. And then when you fall, it's a hard fall. But if you have a community and they hear you on hard times, you might actually get some support from people. You might get some help from people. You guys might be able to work together to keep the business around. And if you keep the business around, you might be able to keep people employed and keep people working on the regular. Because when I go out here and I start a business, it's so I can employ other brothers and sisters. Like Mike Williams put his work on the cover. I put a guy, Drew Swift's work on my cover. I mean, when you're out here, you're putting people to work, and that's something very important. And again, black artists and stuff, I've tried to help them out, and I'm trying to help people. And again, that's part of having a business. If you leave your community, you don't have anybody there to help the next brother or sister come up. And you really want to be able to help that next brother or sister come up, because if you help them up, they can help others up. And then if all of you are on the platform, everybody can stand together and really work towards building something where everybody can share the wealth.
Exactly. It's kind of like Nipsey, man. Nipsey was trying to have a lot of people come up. And I mean, even though it didn't work out for him, but I saw the blueprint in that.
Yeah, because if everybody's working together, then you have everybody bringing wealth to the community, and that makes the quality of life for everybody better. I mean, things don't get better. One person is not going to become the savior. It's going to be all of us working together to build a strong community.
We got Brandon L. What did Brandon L say?
He said we got pro-black supporting low-life niggas destroying the community because of the death of George Floyd.
Hey, they mad, man. It's a lot of stress going on right now in the world. It's bigger than that.
I will say something. Okay, so when we talk about building businesses and all of this stuff in the community, it's always like really vague. We use words like something and all of that. To be more specific, it's like I typed in the chat. If you're going to build a business, you can't rely on sponsorships because that's not a good foundation. People building platforms on YouTube is not going to be a way to save the community in the way of business. I mean, it can save the community as far as like getting information out there. But if you're going to build a business, again, like
you got to start somewhere to get the capital.
Understood. But in economic rules, you need to have some type of product or service that people either want or need. It has to be something that'll eventually be a commodity. And if you don't start there, then the something is just in the wind. And typically, when Black people are building businesses, it's always a solo endeavor or some type of entertainment function. Those are commodities, but those aren't commodities that can employ other people. Those are pretty much solo endeavors. So, like for instance, the new wave of people are a lot into IT, and they should be, because the world is going to be run by IT. So a lot of IT companies are more tangible than entertainment, but our culture is based around entertainment. Like, for instance, like my consultant company, I employ people to work and do IT work. And then when I move to South America, I'll be doing the same thing, employing people to lay cable, to put Wi-Fi in buildings, to configure routers and switches, servers, and all the rest of it. That's a tangible business I don't have to rely on like the whims of a sponsor if they don't like something that I say and then they just cut off my funding. That's what I mean by like when we talk about this stuff, we should be more specific than just saying something, because that lets me know that no one really has a clue of what they're talking about. You gotta like start somewhere that has to be tangible.
Well, it takes time to get to tangible. I tell you, I've been working for 10 years. It takes time to get there. And sometimes you don't have the money. Sometimes the money runs out on you. I mean, I had one time when I was like in 2009, 2010, I was starting publishing books. Money can go really fast. So it's a lot of times you have plans to do tangible things, but your money's just not there.
Right. Okay. So we understand that like businesses start and fail. We know like the success rate of companies is like more failures than winners. That's how it always is. Capitalism as a economic practice the same way. I mean, that's natural selection. There's more losers than winners. It's just how it goes. So I want to move past that and go to the fact that if you're going to have something that's going to give you a community a fighting chance, again, it has to be something tangible versus just saying something. It's just like back when the internet started disrupting a bunch of companies, and people would say, "Oh, you can just make money in other ways," like those two words, "other way." No one knew what other ways meant until businesses started popping up, like the gig economy, with taxis being replaced by Uber and Lyft and whatnot. But before that happened, everyone was just saying other ways, and no one knew what the hell other ways meant because no one knew what they were doing. So if we're going to go into an area of trying to like fix the community, then you got to think more than just saying the vagueness has to go away. We don't have enough time to be vague.
Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, when it comes down to it, sometimes you can't get too specific, because if you get too specific, you will wind up getting stuck. Because I know from my own personal experiences, if you get too specific, then what happens is then you're not going to be able to adapt to the marketplace or switch up.
Well, see, I can get specific. Okay, so right now, again, like I said, everything is leaning towards all businesses are going to have to use a network. You don't have a choice if you're going to go into business. So the best thing for people to do is become educated in IT. Look at other cultures, the way they educate their entire culture. Like Chinese educate their culture towards science and math because they have to, because everything is headed towards science and math. If you look at what they're doing with quantum physics, they're on Star Trek level shit right now. So if you look at other cultures that do the same thing, Germany is on the same thing. So again, to be more specific, you have to have a culture change. Education and intellectual endeavors can't just be white people shit. So that is more specific. You gotta basically force this. It's just like I talk about all the time. Force the assimilation. If you can't assimilate to the nation you live in, you don't have a place to live. You can't expect to go anywhere else and live anywhere else because you can't even assimilate in your own nation. So what makes you think you're gonna assimilate somewhere else? You don't have a culture to back you. So you that's a solo thing. So yeah, I mean, people just need to get on board with what is going to be the norm, which is technology. And then from there, you can be more specific as to what businesses you're going to open. For instance, consulting companies and whatnot.
Oh, you could do that.
Shawn, have you considered YouTube advertising or Facebook ads or anything like that?
I did Facebook ads, but I don't work with Facebook anymore because the ads, one, are not very effective, and two, Facebook, I'm not a fan of their community guidelines and how they keep banning people and putting people in Facebook jail. So I don't want to continue giving money to a company that censors people for expressing their opinions, and if you give them money I used to give them money on the regular, but I just said I'm tired of them censoring people. They put me in Facebook jail several times, and I said enough is enough. I'm not going to continue supporting this company and giving them ad money. I gave YouTube ads a little bit of something, but it was costing too much. So that's why I put my own ads on my own videos, because they want so much money. I mean, this thing practically, I mean, within one day it was $50. It was just too much money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your ads are pretty good. I mean, I like them though. They're funny, but I like them.
Hey, Shawn, let me ask you a question. I don't know if I missed it, but are you like completely separated from the Manosphere? Or?
Yeah, I left them alone. I left them alone because it's just the same thing all the time. I get tired of hearing about how bad black women are, and I learned black men and working on ourselves. I mean, what are we doing to improve ourselves? That's the critical question. Don't worry about the woman, because the woman is a follower. Start about focusing on becoming a leader.
We've been saying this like every day in like the chat and everything, man. I'm happy somebody else agrees.
That's the two. Yeah, he went in. Shawn went in on the Manosphere last year or so, like 3 videos straight. It was good. It was good. On the 2.0, he went in.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any more questions for Shawn?
You pretty much asked every question I was going to ask, man. I'm late to the party.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, good interview.
All right, man. Shawn, I appreciate you coming. You're always welcome on the channel. Anytime you want to talk about nerd shit or whatever it is, you're always welcome. Your links are in the chat. I'll put your links in the description if anyone forgets because you're lazy. So thanks again for coming on. Hope to see you again.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I have to go. So thank you for having me on the show. And I hope to do it again.
No problem.
Good to see you. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on and being nice, niggas. Appreciate it.
Bro, I was too late, man, so I couldn't say anything.
Well, I'm not into badgering guests, so
yeah.
He was making some points.
You niggas behaved. I appreciate it. It was good. It was almost 2 hours. It's almost 2 hours, so it was pretty long.
Hey, who's up next? Zero, you firing the stream?
I can. I mean, it'll be a shit stream, but
hey, shit, let's get it. Shit, why not?
Okay, yeah. If you're gonna do one, you just head to Zero's channel if he's gonna do one.
All right, hold on. I gotta start Zoom.
But yeah, this was my first interview. I plan on doing more. I'll just have to. If you have any people you think I should interview, just email me and I'll look them up.
All right.
All right. So I'm about to end this. Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right, everybody. Zero, Sole Provider, Mods, Chat.
All right.
Be safe.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. Peace. Thanks for watching.
Now available on Google Play, Smashwords, and the iBookstore. John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, the man